Well, obviously, big game coming on Saturday. I think I told our guys, obviously, the last 2 weeks you've done well, right? Which you make this game a little bit bigger because of that. So excited to go on the road, see what we got. We've done some good things on the road this year and expect to continue forward. Really excited here the last 3 or 4 days to get so many guys, I think, since Monday, nominated for national awards. I think one of the things that's really cool for me, I always say history repeats itself to our players, right? And my first year at the University of Wisconsin as a head coach, I was able to get a Senior Bowl invite and hand it to Joe Thomas, who later that year became a Outland Trophy winner and a really high draft pick and went on to have a great career. Again, a couple years later, I was able to hand Gabe Creamy a Senior Bowl invite list, and he became the Outland Trophy winner and obviously went on to a first-round draft pick. And Johnny, to put himself in that position to be up for the Outland, I don't think I've had a defensive lineman nominated for that award. There's certain parameters they got to be in play. He's got to play inside the tackle and a certain number of reps. So just really excited for him. I know he came back to play really high-level football, and that's what he's done. He's just different than the rest I've ever been around, the way he plays it. So from an injury standpoint, with our guys going over there on Saturday, should be 100% for where we kind of thought we were going to be on Monday. Reggie has practiced well all week, hasn't had any issues, don't see him being a concern. At wide receiver, Pat Bryan, who left the game, got in there a little bit on Wednesday, practiced today, and expect him to be full go on Saturday. Obviously, that'll be something we'll figure out that day when we get there. Luke been cleared, I believe, since Tuesday afternoon. Have him in practice all week. It's been really good to see him back there. I think anytime you have two guys that play that position as well as they have is a positive thing. Defensively, Keith Randolph practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, backed off a little bit today, but he should be 100% on Saturday to go where we're at. So don't really expect any change. Caden Fagan, again, just an evaluation process, hasn't been able to practice with us yet this week, but we got a chance. I know he's not a veteran player, but a guy that I think, this game, he got recruited by them and all that goes into it. He's been excited to play all along, so we'll see where that plays out. But Reggie and Fidanzo have had a good week of practice. So that'll open up for questions.
Nice. How do you kind of navigate your quarterback situation? Have you made any decisions about who'll start?
Obviously, the thing that we didn't know a week ago was whether or not Luke was going to be ready to play, and obviously he got nailed during the course of the week. He was ruled out going into the weekend. So our players have known and practiced all week with what our plan is, and again, I think anything that we can do when we go on the road to put our guys in the best position to have success, that guy will be under center.
I guess with the older guys that have maybe not practiced, and you've been okay with him being cleared late and they can play. Is Caden? I mean, he's got. Yeah,
I get it. The thing I have to be careful with Caden is the young man loves playing at the University of Illinois, and he went back in the game the other day, and obviously in a low red area, and physically just couldn't hang on the ball, right? So we got to pass all the things we have to pass to get him to be able to be out there. So that's the only element that probably will hold us back. We just got to make sure he can hang on the ball in traffic and contact and put himself in a position to be successful with all of us.
Coach, you've done a good job over your career here, picking all those, long streaks you've knocked out, missed Wisconsin, different ones. Iowa goes back to 99.
99, 2000.
Right, so.
Do you know who the inside linebacker coach was at the University of Iowa?
It was you.
This handsome devil you got.
So, is there something to how have you been able to do that?
I think history is always good when you can teach it, right? And I've tried to really impress on our guys, like I said at the beginning of this press conference, right? History repeats itself all over the place. And last year when we had those 3 games in a row, we made a big deal of that, right? And obviously we're able to do it. I asked very early on, right, when was the last time that Illinois had 2 victories in a row? Little did I know it was 99 and 2000. And I Googled a picture of Bret Bielema in 2000 and showed it to the guys and said this was the last time. So it's kind of fun for them. They embrace it. They hear a lot about it, right? So I just think that kids in today's world, they're so now oriented, right? They got cell phones, they got internet access, all this stuff. So anything that gives them perspective and history is really good. One of the reasons I love showing them different comments from great players, right? Football players. I show Kobe quite a bit. I'll show different NBA guys, tennis stars, guys that are great players in my era or that I grew up with, to teach them that, because when they're going to be in that same scenario 20 years from now, they're going to talk about these players that they've watched right now, and their kids won't know who they're talking about, right? So they try to teach them a little bit of legacy.
You've coached 1,000 games since then. And you remember that game over there?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Their best player, Cooper DeJean, went down
Yeah.
with an injury. How do you think that affects the
Well,
game?
first, obviously been blessed to watch him really come onto the scene last year, and then I noticed this year when him and Johnny were both, I think, picked co-defensive MVPs, right, preseason, if I'm not mistaken, players of the year. Just really respect for his game. I've been, the part that I really enjoy as a head coach, I love watching players play, right, that truly are good, whether they're playing, obviously I don't love it on game day, but you watch and appreciate him on film, and he's such a dynamic player, and my guess is, being in that program, who he is, what he represents, he's probably a pretty phenomenal person, right? And you just hate to see anything along that lines. I think our guys always want to play against the best, and obviously he's got a year left, so how that all plays out will be determined, but unfortunate for him, and our prayers are with him.
But I'd rather just ask than not.
Yeah.
Would you share with us who you think you're going to start at quarterback on Saturday?
I think our guys have 100%, no doubt in their mind, what's going to start at center and quarterback. So I think the one part that really became clear to me as we begin to evolve with our players, right, they get really good at practicing what they do, right, and what we emphasize in practice, our guys go out and do very, very well. So I was clear and adamant about what we were going to do from Sunday on. What the outside rules or knows, it doesn't really matter to me, but what happens on Saturday is what matters most.
Brett, you mentioned wide receiver in terms of injuries, but has Pat Bryant kind of recovered in a way that's surprising to you?
He, that play, he got rolled pretty good. If you watch it, the guy ranked on it pretty good, and he tried to come back in. So I knew he was going to be close. Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, we have the hyperbolic chamber or whatever it is that we get him in, and I know he's been trying like crazy to get ready for Tuesday. Tuesday we didn't feel comfortable. Wednesday he did, and today he did. But wide receiver is a different thing, bless his heart, Keith Randolph is doing everything he can, but it's a different position, So it's a wait and see. The good news is Ashton got his feet wet.
Sure.
He's had a lot of good work, but my guess is Pat Brown will be in there for that first series as much as he can handle.
There's a lot of pub about a quarterback, right? Do you take it differently? I mean, everyone wants to talk about a quarterback, but do you handle that differently than other positions? Even internally, talking with players and
As far as what? What do you mean?
as far as who's going to start, who's going to play.
Oh.
I see that gets all the Brett.
Well, I think the quarterback position gets a lot of outside attention, right? But I really do probably treat it, I think, if you ask them. But I always do say this to quarterbacks, right? Like, even when I'm recruiting them, like, listen, I tell their parents, this position is very unique, right? Like, you, at times, get entirely too much credit and you get entirely too much blame. And because of that, I will always be the brunt. I don't care whatever quarterback I've had. He go out and have the greatest game of his life. I'll give him credit. If he has a game that's not so great, if you take in case in point, right? I've talked about how Luke's season literally changed after Penn State, right? He had a 4-interception game and really after that point forward to put up some unbelievably good numbers, right? So I really handled that moment with him. I made a point, I think, that week talking about how I called him on Saturday night before he went to bed because I wanted him to know he was our starting quarterback. I didn't share with that the outside world, right? But I wanted him to know that. So I would say Sunday I definitely had conversations with everybody involved. They knew directionally where we were going and what we were doing, and that hasn't wavered.
How have those conversations played out this week? Or how did
We'll
those
see on Saturday.
With the way they defend the run, especially in the red zone, one rushing touchdown. I mean, does that not to give away the game plan, but does that change your thinking on how to game plan for them?
I think anytime you're in the red area, which we've been very good at this year, we made a conscientious effort during the odd season and throughout the course of the year to be more efficient, and we've been able to accomplish that. I don't want to talk on what our plan is, like you said, but I think Iowa is who they are. They're very regimented in their schemes and what they do. They do change game plan wise on who they're playing, right? Like certain teams will be played differently, but I've been around this, seen this enough that like I have a pretty good understanding of what I think they're going to do to us in the red area. There's obviously a game plan installed, but we got to execute in those big moments, and obviously to be on the road is a big deal with the crowd noise.
Brandon, you mentioned Caden hasn't been able to practice this week. What, for you internally, what's kind of your deadline to decide if you have him make that trip to Iowa or if you don't?
Yeah, well, getting down to just kind of the way we are, even 2 weeks ago when we didn't take Reg, we met on Thursday and we're taking him on a trip with us, and then Friday he didn't feel great, so we pulled him off because we needed players at other positions, So case in point, like at Pat, we're intending for him to go. We think he's going to go. He's cleared to go. But if he gets over there and he can't, that made us take one more wide receiver. Does that make sense? Like, so 74 travel guys, they get 74 guys to go to the hotel. So at this time of the year, everybody's trying to get that spot. I would say if Caden can't go, he wouldn't be included.
We asked Aaron on Monday, but not you, about conversations with Taz this week. But
Yeah.
you might have had. He seems adamant that he did not do that. So
Right.
how do you handle that as a coach?
Yeah,
You just have the fire and passion.
Well, the good news was the first thing I had to do is check and see if there's any further suspension, right? Because the
Right.
rule, by law, in this Big Ten conference, what happened and transpired on Saturday, he could be removed
Sure.
from further competition. I reached out on Monday, got final notification on Tuesday. There'd be no further action, which means there probably wasn't a clarity on what it does. I'm going to believe my player, but that game overall was just getting. I don't think it needed to get to that point. They were chippy. That kid and him were getting into it all day long. Taz tends to bring the ire of a lot of officials against him, which I believe he's earned at certain times, right? But I think the great thing about Taz is he's ultra competitive. Every day is a learning experience, and hopefully that one was a big one.